Okay, morning, everyone. I'd like to welcome you to the Water Committee meeting for TUD on Thursday, February 26th. And I guess who is going to be the person that's going to take this on?
Antonia is going to lead it off, but would you mind if we did a entire room of introduction?
Actually, I'm sorry I didn't say that. That's a good thing to do.
Antonia around.
Yeah.
One
Okay.
of the reasons.
Yeah.
Justin Terzich, I'm the distribution foreman.
Hey, good morning, everybody. Matt Nolte, distribution superintendent.
Good morning, Eric Hall, operations director.
Ron Ringen, TUD board member.
Carol Real, TUD board member.
Antonio Ramirez, engineering customer service.
Don Perkins, TUD general manager.
Rich Pitcher, collection superintendent.
Okay, with that, let's proceed. I guess it's Antonio, you're up.
Thank
Hold
you,
on,
Ron.
Antonio. Ron, we need to read the item.
Oh, I guess that would help, huh?
Okay, we have one item today. Consider easement encroachment issue at a property on Caulfield Road and consider draft guidelines for staff to address unauthorized encroachments on TUD easements and underground facilities.
All right, I'm just going to go ahead and read through the staff report here. For starters, so on July 29th, 2025, district staff received a call from a contractor who discovered a water line caution tape while excavating for a new garage at a property on Caulfield Road. Caution tape is typically positioned about 2 feet above the pipeline. Field staff responded and discovered the contractor had not followed legal procedures, which include submitting a request for underground service alert for proper utility locating prior to digging. Field staff ordered the contractor to stop digging, to call on a USA and contact the district office regarding the project. The district has recently determined that the contractor never contacted USA, nor was TD ever contacted as was specifically requested. On January 16th, 2026, the district received notice from the county of a building permit for the property. Documentation showed a proposed garage encroaching within the district's existing easement. Then on January 21st, 2026, the engineering department received a call from the county regarding the same permit, asking whether the district objected to the easement encroachment. The district informed the county that the easement encroachments are not acceptable and that we would need time to further investigate the matter. Field and engineering staff met on site with the owners and determined the garage and a approximately 6 foot high retaining wall are approximately 4.5 feet horizontally, excluding the eaves from the district's 6-inch water main as shown in the attached picture. No decision was made at the field meeting with the owners on how to proceed. However, several options were discussed. After a discussion between district management and staff, it was decided a cease and desist order or letter, which is also attached, from the district's legal counsel would be sent to the owners and to present this item to the water committee for further discussion. The cease and desist letter that was sent included 2 options to remedy the situation. One is to relocate the garage to clear the existing easement, or to relocate the district's water main a sufficient distance from the garage. Staff is prepared to discuss other options, but not presented in the letter, but may warrant consideration by the committee. I'm going to jump ahead to, I'm going to share something here. Work. You guys able to? Okay, we're good. Thank you. So what we're seeing here is a picture taken by Justin, correct?
Yes.
Yes. Okay. So Justin is the field staff person who responded to the phone call that was made to the office. Correct me if anything I say is wrong, and then I'm going to ask you to kind of give your recollection on this, Justin. Done. So this red line is approximately the location of the actual water main. And caution tape, I'm seeing it right here. This is the caution tape up here. That's what was discovered. Justin explained to me that he was the one that poked a hole here through with a shovel to expose the main, but it's roughly about in this location. So, Justin, do you mind adding like what you recollect about when you received the call and what happened?
Yeah, just upon arrival, I noticed the caution tape. Immediately grabbed a shovel just to expose to confirm that we do have our water main was in that location. As you can see, I did expose a portion of it just to show the contractor that it's not just, it is there. And yeah, I just recommended that he stop digging and call the office and call the USA in, because there was definitely no USA for it. It's the normal action taken as far as facilities are exposed. But like I said, it should have been called in prior to digging the call. My recollection is just calling him, stop digging, calling USA, and to call the office to get the correct where the easement is, size, where they can actually put their garage or footings. That was where I left it.
Thank you. It's really common for Justin and any of Matt's other guys, and as well as Rich and his staff, to do the same thing, to call me when there's a situation like this, or tell the people to call me. They oftentimes will try to clarify things and deal with me directly. So that's a very common situation that Justin's. Okay, so this is what I received on the Friday. I can't remember the exact date, but and this is kind of like I think it's just sort of a cover for the permit. And this was sent to me, and then was sent to me again on, I think, following Monday or Tuesday. And when the county surveyor's office asked me if we objected to, if we had any issues with the permit, but if we objected to this easement encroachment. So you'll see, I don't know for sure, but my understanding that maybe this was prepared after our initial encounter at some point, or potentially after the garage was red tagged by the county. And so it was sort of a retroactive permit and site plan. And you'll see on this that it is showing our easement here, this dash line. And it sort of kind of cuts across their property a little bit and then follows along their westerly property line. And the main isn't, and this is very common, not perfectly in the center. And I kind of tried to highlight and here the distances. They're about 6 feet at this end from the water main, and about 4 feet from this end. I think we could think the next slide is when zoom this out. This is when Matt and Justin and I met outside with the owners, and Justin located here with these flags where the water main is. So this kind of gives you an idea. This measures out to about 4 feet here. Maybe it's about 2 foot eaves. So,
Excuse me a minute.
yes, sir.
You don't mind me interrupting?
Nope.
So let me get this straight. Your name's Justin, right?
Correct.
So Justin, somewhere around July 29th, 2025, somewhere around in there was when UD received a call from the contractor or someone about this caution tape that they ran across. That's when you went out and definitely saw that there was a main there.
Yes,
And it's not until January 16th of 2026 that there's notice of a building permit.
Correct.
And now you're showing us at what point in time, what's the date of about this?
It was, I think we were called on Monday on a Monday or Tuesday, and we're out there the next.
No, date. Approximate date.
Oh,
January though.
yes,
So they went ahead and completed the project, even though,
it's my understanding, so on the 21st of January is when we were called. So we probably were out there the 22nd, take that picture. It's my understanding, no work has gone on since this picture. And that structure was red tagged. Reasons which I don't know why, but it was, my understanding it was red tagged at some point. That site plan that I showed you and permit were prepared and sent to us after the red tag. That's my understanding. But when the red tag occurred and all that, I don't know, but
no, I'm saying, I'm seeing a completed structure here.
it is nearly complete. The roof has just been protected for the winter.
So if you compare that picture to the picture of the original, of 25. So they continued construction?
Correct. Yes.
You're kidding me. Okay.
So, yeah, and things that you can't see here are the footings of the garage, and I think you can see up here the upper end of a extra material from the French drain. Presumably there's one there. Which could be a concern, for us. We don't know how high up the main is relationship to the retaining wall at this point, or the footing. So ideally, we're never this close to a structure. This is the cease and desist order from, well, let me go back. Does anyone have any questions on this picture?
I did, but I think you answered it. We don't know how much covers on our main, or do we? Covers on.
It's relatively close to it was at the toe of that slope, and we're guessing that that's about the base level of the footer. So the footing and that retaining wall is about the same elevation. So about 6. We're guessing. I guess we're speculating. That's a 6. It's at the base of the.
The main is? Oh,
Did we try to get a depth? It's not very accurate.
the locating equipment we have does give a depth, but I'm not confident unless we actually pothole it, reveal it, take a tape measure. Don't trust it.
Let it depend on where your locate wire is, if it's on the pipe or if it's up by the tear tape. That's why it's
Yeah.
it's not an accurate depth.
Be over a foot off if it's under the pipe compared to the top of the pipe.
So this is the cease and desist letter. I don't know if we want to go over it. Would want to review this in detail.
Dr. Ringen, do you want to go over that in detail, this letter?
No,
Okay.
no.
Right, and then this is a copy of the easement. That, our predecessors, reported Regional Water District. Gives the bearing and distance, I think, the description or a pivot map for it. So So this kind of deals with the next topic. So from there, I think we can open it up for discussion. Right now, in cease and desist letter, we have a couple options. Thinking with having them move the garage or move the water main. You go back to this exhibit, Matt can explain this a little bit better, but the water main starts off in Coffle Road, and then it jets off to on private property. And then it jets back onto the road. Is that?
It stays cross country for quite some time. All the way.
So, yeah, and the situation's right here. So if we were to relocate this water main, we would have to come back quite a ways. Because otherwise we would be having 45, a couple 45s here and then 45 and back out around the garage, back in. It would be just pretty to do. So we would have to come back quite a ways, and I think we said about 100 feet.
Approximately.
Yeah, but potentially more. So quite a distance, not just the distance of the garage. Sure. So in terms of locating the main, important to be thinking about. Questions?
Well, I read through this in detail, and I won't get into my thoughts right at the moment. But I guess about the only question I have is if the water line were to be moved, what's going to be the issue with the easement? I mean, whose property is the easement going to come out of? And how, you know, just how's that going to work?
So it's potential, you'll see here it says state of California. And this is a really weird area in terms of right of way, because this was some of the up in this area on 108, there's a lot of extra Caltrans right of way that future use. I don't know if so right now this is designated as Caltrans right of way, and that is why right now you're awful here is county. And TRWD purposely avoided the Caltrans right-of-way section when on the private property. We would probably have to go to Caltrans to relocate this into the Caltrans right-of-way.
We're not going to Caltrans to locate anything. Caltrans is very difficult to work with, and we didn't create this problem. So we're not going to Caltrans.
Well, when I say we are involved in that. Yes, you're right. The project proponent would need to go to Caltrans to obtain encroachment permit to do this.
You have anything to say, fellow committee member?
So what did you say about, how would the encroachment work if it went either way?
Well, if we go to, if Caltrans, the only other place to put this water main would be in Coffle Road, in this section that is Caltrans right away. So Caltrans would need to be contacted, and approval would need to be obtained by Caltrans in order for us to put a water main relocated into Coffle Road.
So where would the encroachment be then?
It
Would
would
it change it? Would it change it?
It's going to change the water main. That's what you mean. Right now, it's. I don't know if I can draw on. Might not be a nice. Right now, this is our current water main does it. So what we would be doing is this. That would pass. This section is probably about 100.
What's the cost of that? If you get, we have an idea?
I tell it it's difficult for me to say, and I'm always uncomfortable, particularly when I got a microphone on. Telling people and estimating the cost that another contractor's charge. What I can say is that when we receive, when we do projects where other people are constructing the water mains, they hire a contractor, I get the cost from the contract. As part of transferring that to the district and reporting that as an asset. I tell people that average I've been seeing lately is about 125. It'd be a lot less, it could be a lot.
$300.
Not, you're talking about your projects, but the cost that I've seen historically is from a private contractor. Not a prevailing wage project, yeah. So they're simple little projects. Sometimes they're in the middle of a field. They're fairly simple.
There would be added cost of surface restoration, and there's also concrete driveways. So
It would be
I
more.
think the cost would be significant.
Okay, so is there anything more from staff on this? I don't see anything. And I'll open it up to the public. Anyone wish to address the committee on this? If so, would you please go to the podium?
All right, good morning again. My name is Andrew Hare. Myself and my wife Jennifer are in attendance to discuss the ongoing construction project at our residence on Caulfield Road in Twain Harte. Our property had an existing parking area of approximately 30 by 15 feet. On July 29th, we started excavating with the intention of building an additional 2-car garage structure. I realize in hindsight, we could have and should have done more due diligence prior to undergoing this project. As excavation progressed, the equipment operator discovered blue tape indicative of a water line, and we stopped the construction progress immediately and contacted TUD for direction. The TUD employee promptly responded to our construction project, identified what was to be discovered as the water main, and provided us direction as to what was required to remain moving forward with our pending construction project. As we understood at the time, we were required to have a 5-foot offset from the pending foundation wall to the existing water line. Given the information provided by TUD staff, we realized we would have to make adjustments to our previously engineered plans to accommodate the required offset. Ultimately, we had our building plan redesigned and the depth of the structure decreased by 2 feet. We also moved the structure approximately 12 feet closer to the existing driveway. In hindsight, I believe there's a serious miscommunication between us and TUD staff. At this time, we continued on with the construction of our garage. We were confident we were doing everything correctly. The project was architecturally and structurally engineered and being built by a licensed contractor. As the construction project progressed, we were contacted by county building inspector who informed us we were required to obtain a building permit to continue moving forward with construction. I was under the impression that the structure being built unattached from our residence and maintaining an unfinished interior would not require a county building permit. The above lack in judgment, more so lack in due diligence, rests entirely on my shoulders. I was under the impression everything we were doing was above board. It was at this point in time we submitted the required documents to the county and the permit process began. Approximately 3 weeks ago, I contacted county building department, and the representative I spoke with stated the process was nearly complete and everything was on track for completion. I did not choose to attend this meeting to point fingers or lay blame. Again, as I stated previously, there was many things I could have and perhaps should have done differently. I truly believe there was a serious miscommunication between us and TUD staff. I recently retired following a 25-year career as a state law enforcement officer. I spent my entire adult life not only following the rules, but also enforcing them. As I stated earlier, I was under the impression we were doing everything the right way. If I would have been instructed to stop construction in July, I can absolutely ensure it would have been done immediately. I have a significant amount of retirement savings invested in this project, and I can assure everyone in attendance, I would not have ignored a direct cease and desist order and continued on with construction. In conclusion, I humbly request TUD staff, please consider the situation I find myself in, and hopefully we can work together to find an amicable resolve. Both myself and Jennifer would truly be grateful for an encroachment option. Again, thank you guys for listening to what I have to say. I appreciate your time. Thank you.
Okay, is there anyone else who wishes to address the committee? Okay, seeing none. Guess we'll bring it back for discussion and a decision on what to do as far as whether to move, what we want to do to move it on to the full board. I've got plenty to say. Do you have anything further?
Not a lot.
Well, I'm going to start out by saying that it's not our job to point fingers, but I can't address the situation without pointing a finger. And as a licensed general contractor here in state of California, we've got licenses in several different things. One of the main components that's required as a contractor, a licensed contractor, is that you follow all the rules and regulations of the area that you're working in, the county and so on, as well as state requirements. And it's even in the license exam. One of the questions always comes up about building permits. Every contractor, licensed contractor, knows you must get a building permit to do any sort of project, especially such as this one here. So that's pointing a finger, I'm sorry, but that's just a fact. So that's where it started out. A homeowner, when buying the property, hopefully got a got a title insurance, got a title search, would have known, because it would have been right in the title search, that there was an easement. And you don't build into an easement. That's why an easement's there. So I don't know, this is like a snowball going downhill. It just gets bigger and bigger, worse and worse as it goes. The thing is discovered back in July 29th of 2025. The contractor has enough common sense to understand what a caution tape is, even though he doesn't have enough common sense to go get a building permit. And it's not until 6 months later, the building's complete. And we just continue on like there's no problem. I'm flabbergasted. I don't understand how stuff like this happens. So I don't think it's up to this committee to come to a conclusion as to what needs to be done at this time. I think that probably what our decision should be is to send it to the full board for a decision there. And I think the facts will speak for themselves, and either one of the options is not good for the property owner, but unfortunately, one of the two is going to have to happen in order to rectify this. So, you have anything further to say?
Well, I've got a question for Anthony. On the Caltrans thing, it takes time to get anything through them anyway, doesn't it? I mean, just to get the permit to go the other way.
It does take time. I personally, Matt might be able to speak better. I mean, on most of my projects don't require Caltrans. So I think 6 months, what it seems.
Are we talking permit or easement?
I don't even think we need to get into that.
Yeah, I was just curious.
I know, well, let's save that for after the meeting. I'm just gonna say this, dealing with the state of California, especially Caltrans, is not a fun-filled and exciting adventure. And they have numerous requirements about getting into their property, especially if it's a road. That's not our problem. I don't want to discuss that.
Okay,
So I guess I'm suggesting that we, as a committee, that we go ahead and send this up to the full board.
I agree.
Full and complete discussion, decision as to what plan to go from here. Is that what you need, Melissa? Are you in full agreement?
I am.
Okay. Well, I guess with that, unless there's any further discussion.
Well, we can move to the second, so we're going to the board, but you're not offering any specific direction as to one of the two options in the cease and desist letter, right? We're just jumping straight to the board.
Well, the way this was written is there's one or two options only available. Correct?
Well, that in the letter, I think the staff report was saying that the committee could consider recommending and discussing another option potentially.
What other option could there be?
So one of the thoughts that we had at the time was potentially recording an agreement. I'll call it, say, a non-liability agreement. I don't know if that's what it would be called, but where we describe the situation, or maybe do another similar map, and that there would be language in there that prevents any liability of the district in the future should the water main break, damage the garage. Or if we're making a repair and we damage the garage during the repair or something like that.
No way. I mean, come on. That's just opening us up to future liability. The owner that owns it now may not be the owner that owns it at the time the pipe breaks, and then we've got all hell break loose on us. If there's a break, there could be something like, oh, you undermined our foundation, our footing. Oh, you hit our roof with your backhoe. No, we're not going there. That is looking for a lawsuit. It needs to be rectified, one of the two. The original thing, either the carport gets altered, so it's not in the easement, or the easement gets moved and the pipeline gets moved. I don't want to open up the ratepayers to further. I mean, look at how much time we've already invested in this. What a waste of time and money. And we didn't do it. It was all on paper to begin with. Anybody could have seen it.
All right, so so we move forward, go to the board. So then we can discuss in the staff report. When this occurred, you know, we got to talking about this situation and other situations. And we just kind of felt like, you know, we need to have a little bit of a process sort of figured out, some guidelines for myself and field staff in dealing with things like this. And so I put together documents here at the staff report we wanted to discuss with you. Matt, jump in at any time. So this here was, you know, what does a person do? Say Justin, again, you know, he gets a call, he goes out there, and we often will have, you know, we get new staff all the time. Some of them don't even know what an easement is, and so there's training there, right? So this kind of gives that person, a new person, but all staff members, some guidelines and how to think about the issue.
Wait a minute, if you don't mind me interrupting.
Sure.
What is it that you feel that staff didn't do correctly to begin with on this? I think Justin handled this excellently. I think everybody has followed everything through to the T. Why? I don't mind if we lay out a plan which is already basically in place. He followed it. Everything has been done perfectly as far as I can see. As I read through this, I couldn't find anything where PUD should have done something different. I think maybe the contractor, I think the owner, I think county building department and so on. Maybe there's a whole bunch of things there. But I don't see where TUD stepped out of line anywhere along the line here.
I agree with you. That is not why. The reason I'm putting this together is because there is a new organization at the state. Boy, did I put the name of it? Probably didn't put it in there. I'm calling it the Dig Safe organization, but it is the California, boy, I should have this on here. But basically it's a new organization that or new agency at the state that is the appropriate agency to contact when a contractor does something like this. Previously, I think we called USAID, but they didn't have teeth. This organization does. They will, and they have a process. So I talked to them, found out what their process was as far as documenting, taking pictures. And that's in this guideline. I'm trying to take their process, documenting things, putting it into the guidelines so that we can sort of build a case. And if need be, then we have a person who, you know, just a flagrant situation where, like the contractor in this case, should have called in and built several things. They were legally obligated to call in the USA. They were legally obligated to.
And we're told to do so
Right.
by TUD.
Correct. But if we want to penalize this person and report them to the state, then we need to have a documentation process that we follow.
I don't want us to get into the policing department. We are water and sewer. We're not a police organization. And if Justin did everything he was supposed to do, he brought it to his superiors. He told the contractor, go get USA and then that was referred to the county, and it should have been referred to the county. And at that point, then it would have come up that there was no building permit and that it would have come up that they were in an easement. It would have been all solved right then. We're not police.
But then how do we enforce our easements? I mean, we clearly have a person who proceeded after being told. So where I think what
Can I jump in?
Yes, sir.
So maybe you don't want to have this discussion here, and maybe it really isn't appropriate. We thought it would be good to show you that we want to build a better mousetrap, right? This isn't a one-off, I don't think. There's a good likelihood, based on circumstances, this sort of thing will happen again.
Oh, no, it's been going on for years.
So my point is, to prevent us from spending unnecessary time and money to do this again, we take a few more steps. And I get it. We don't need to discuss this here. These are staff operations. We can do this. We can do a little bit better. Justin and his staff department did an excellent job. I'm suggesting we take it another step.
I'm with you all the way.
We just don't have to discuss it
No,
here.
I'm totally with you, and we've got all the right people in place, so.
Perfect.
Let's do it. I wanted to make sure we're on the same page, that the badge is not here.
Right.
The badge is back there for the county.
Right.
Do we want to go over this then, or?
Yeah.
All right, so again, these are kind of in mind that if we have an issue, we have concern. I think when Matt and Rich and I were talking about this, we started doing this and we both were like, this doesn't feel fun. And it felt sort of, you know, a bit like we were kind of overreaching a little bit, and I think Matt specifically expressed to me that he wants his staff to be able to use their judgment, which in my eyes has always been great. And so, but this gives everybody a reminder when we're going fast, what should we do? In any situation, we take lots of pictures. And, you know, when we have issues in the field, sometimes when it's work we do, sometimes it's work other people do. And so we do have ways of documenting. And so this was just about, we come up with a situation, you feel it's important. Here's what you're going to need to do. I think in a case, next time around this comes up, I do think good pictures, good communication, and following this process. You know, again, it's a lot of this is he already did. It's just kind of reinforcing it. You know, a bit, but there are situations, and Rich might be able to chime in because he seems to have these where there are people encroaching in the permit or in the easement, and he has to fight them. And he has over and over and over again spend a lot of time. And so in some cases, we'd like to have a process and work towards a process where we know what the teeth are that the district has at their, you know, in their toolbox. Aside from, you know, you better call somebody, or us telling the county, you know, I don't think it's our job to tell the county that to check whether a person has a permit or report them on a project. But this is sort of kind of gearing us towards a direction where what can we do if somebody is non-compliant and has, you know, a bunch of trash in an easement, or is building a fence where we don't want it, aside from just making phone calls. So that's kind of what we're trying to get to here, is just make sure everyone's on the same page in terms of documenting who to go to in certain situations. But just to reiterate, Matt and Rich and I and all their staff, we have, I think, great communication. So that's what this guideline is for. It's just for them to keep and hand out to their staff and go over periodically every year or something, however they feel. So then this next one is.
Before we move on, if you don't mind.
Sure.
Go back up to Matt, what part of that did you folks not do?
I'd say we are pretty thorough on every single.
That's my point. We're making no change here.
I will say, you know, there's different extremes on this, right? And it's not always necessarily a permanent structure that we're talking about. So that's where this guidance kind of, and having the ability to be pretty flexible is, you know, we have easements that are access easements that we need to get into to maintain our facilities.
Right.
And there can just be you know, materials, debris, whatever that's eating our access. And so I think, you know, Antonio's on to something as far as giving us some guidance, and it's nice to have leverage and figure out how do we get this, who's in charge of moving this debris, you know, and it's just nice to have, I guess, a document to look at, like he had said, to refresh everybody's memory on who do we contact that's gonna, you know, pull a trailer off of our access road, you know, whatever. So it's not always as extreme as somebody building right up next to us and encroaching. Encroachment could be as easy as somebody put a rock in our way or something like that. So, so yeah, I think there's benefits to what Antonio is saying. I like to keep things simple. Like you said, we didn't do anything we did our due diligence. That's for sure.
Well, I don't have anything against this, but this to me is fine. Ended up in every supervisor's office, that's fine. But like I said, looks to me like between Justin and you and everyone else, you followed every one of those things already. I mean, right from the very beginning. Where the problem comes is at the county. I don't have in front of me right at the moment, but I see a building permit signed by, I think it was Roger Root. And I don't quite understand that with a red tag and a building being built in an easement. How does that work? What's that?
That's the conversation. The county has a duty to do their job,
That's right.
period. So, but to their defense, they didn't know this thing was being built. They had no idea. We didn't know they were getting built. It was getting built. Thankfully, the contractor called and said, hey, TUD, we think we did something here. And we went over there and did our job, but there's a gap. So the county still doesn't know anything. We do our due diligence to the T, and we expect all the right procedures to continue.
Right.
So, so at some point, well, I don't even know, it doesn't really matter to me, but my point is, so what we're suggesting, at least I think, what I would suggest is that the next time this happens, we elevate the information, you do exactly what you did, you elevate the information, get this to Antonio, Antonio calls the county. If the county doesn't want to do their job or can't do their job, then Antonio can say, hey, maybe you don't know what's going on over on Caulfield Road, but this is what's going on. Did that happen?
No.
Yeah, so that's what I'm saying. So maybe we can do,
Boy.
prevent this from happening again. It could have been the contractor didn't call us and say, oops, you just continued on. Could have done that. And then this whole thing would have happened in a vacuum and we wouldn't know until we got a main line break.
Well, it's amazing he didn't hit the line as it was.
It is amazing, but it just, I've said this to everybody in this room, except for maybe the property owners and others, but it's a water line. It's probably high pressure. How much pressure? Doesn't matter.
Probably about 50.
50, 60 pounds, not a big deal. It could have been 200 pounds. It could have been gas. It could have been electric. It could have been all kinds of things that would have killed people. It's time to pay attention. We all have a job to do,
That's right.
right? So I just think we can do a little bit more to make sure we get the information to the county. That's all I'm saying.
Well, I'm with you all the way on that. I hope they hear. Last time I wrote a letter, I didn't ever get an answer.
Me either. But that doesn't mean we gotta quit trying.
So I had a few reasons I did this. One is that when a situation happened, just me, I was like, what could we have done to prevent this? And so I started thinking about the process just very incrementally, started coming up with this, and with partly the purpose of just elevating the discussion, bringing it out, putting it on paper, sort of bringing it to, the forefront of all of our thinking. But the other thing is that this is being streamed. I hope the contractor is watching. I hope other contractors are watching this, that this is something we're going to start paying attention to. Because we need to. This is taking a lot of unnecessary time. And I don't see this as the end point, But I think ultimately, when we look at the next flow chart, we do want to know how far we can enforce things. What are our enforcement tools if we have non-compliance in various scenarios? So,
Well, I think this goes one step further. I think we have to throw out on the table the fact that TUD was formed in 1992. It was formed because the county was inadequate to do what they paid $1 million for from PG&E and took over all of the water system from PG&E. And there was like $200 or $300 million worth of deferred maintenance that got pushed off onto TUD when they were formed. We've been fighting with that ever since. TUD would have never allowed an easement like that. It would have been done way differently if we were doing it today, but we inherited it. So this is the way things go, but we get no backing from the county. And that's where, yeah, the first thing that happens when something like this comes up, you call the county and then you're expecting them to do their job. So to me, it's simple. There's, what's there more to discuss? You got the rules or the guideline, let's call it that. You're already doing it anyways, but now it's in writing. I think it was in writing before basically, but now it's really in writing. It's going to be on everybody's wall. So go ahead and show us the next thing, but I don't, to me, it stops with a call to the county on our part.
so in this flow chart, it's kind of providing, and I'm sure there's other scenarios, but this may be a lot to talk about for here. But it's a flow chart, so you start off where the district somehow becomes aware of an excavation project, and some of this is just happening. Most of it is happening pretty automatically. So first, we asked the question: is there an active USA? So one thing that maybe not everyone here knows is that we do have a software that where all of our staff receive directly all these calls for USAs, and they respond within two days typically, unless it's an emergency. So they can look for themselves pretty much right away if a project has an active USA. So if there is an active USA and there's no conflict, they actually can clear it right on the iPad. That's usually how they do it. If they see something out on a property, they'll look up the USA. Again, if there's no conflict, they just move on. If there is a conflict, most of the time it gets sent over to me, or I get a call and they ask about easements and that sort of thing. And then we kind of move forward, get a hold of the person, whatever the case may be. So sometimes there are conflicts, even though there is a USA. So if there's not a USA, then there's several different paths that can occur. You may not like this, but we were talking about having a form where we start this documentation process. We do have there are some people who are sort of pretty good at not calling in USAs. And so we want to try to rein that in a little bit, but you can't rein that in if you don't continually document. Otherwise, you're just wasting your breath. And so if you report these people to the state, you have to have, for say, not calling in USAs, you have to have documentation of that. If we don't want to enforce any of this, then this flow chart doesn't matter. This flow chart really exists only if management, the board, wants to enforce easement encroachments and damage to utilities. That's what this is for, is creating a process that we at trigger points where we document things and we have certain actions. So this form starts the documentation. This is actually probably could just be a Tyler tag, which is a very simple thing to do. We already have the field staff can do it. It's all fairly straightforward. So in the form, you're basically going to document the incident, pictures, try to get the contractor's name, things like that. And then staff would immediately order the contractor to call in a USA again. But again, they would document that they've said this. If you go up and there's no conflicts, and the person's not a repeat offender, no further action. It happens, people. I see this as more for contractors. I don't see this as, someone's doing a garden and they about to call USA or going to plant a maple tree. That's not what this is for. I think this is for the contractors who we have issues with. If the contractor in this case, even though there's not a conflict, but it's a repeat offender, we wouldn't immediately file a DigSafe complaint, but we would continue documenting. Again, Matt, Rich, whoever else, field staff, they're going to make the decision that they want to pursue reporting these people or not. Now, if there's potential for an easement encroachment, they're going to issue a stop dig order where there would be some kind of form, door hanger, triplicate form, we don't know yet, but there would be some formal stop dig order issued by field staff. And they would involve me more than likely, or someone else from the engineering department. Confirm that there's an easement, provide as-built, depths of water and sewer lines, things like that. Again, this is just potential situation. And then if in this case, if there's a conflict, if there's not a conflict, this sort of ends there. If there is a conflict, again, we would address the issue further as needed. We can't see in mine here, got window in the way. We would file a DigSafe complaint with the state and send a notice of violation to the owner. And then the next one would be a pipeline's been exposed or there's been some minor damage. Happens quite a bit. Again, there would be a stop dig order. A lot of these are very similar, but kind of want to know where your endpoint is a lot of times. So they are a little bit different sometimes. But you issue a stop dig order, you route to engineering, confirm easement, and provide as-built and things like that. And again, to the judgment of the superintendent on site, potentially file a DigSafe complaint with the state and a notice of violation to the owner. And again, it all depends upon the circumstances, just the guidelines for staff. If it's a life safety or, like a water sewer main break, again, stop dig order. Engineering become involved again to provide easements and as-built, recommending further action, and again, potentially report to the state and provide a notice of violation. Absent in this is what really is a notice of violation. What are the penalties? That's stuff that would, if the board of management feels is valuable, we would need to pursue, probably would leave. So that's it. I mean, I'm obviously happy to take any questions.
Well, before you go, just real quickly, I want to know from the supervisors here, if you're comfortable with doing this process.
So I think, yes, to some extent, but, and I don't know if this is a proper place to discuss it or if it's, off board or whatever, but the biggest thing that my department needs to know is we don't have any teeth, and what I mean by that is my easements are probably a little bit different than Matt's as far as we physically inspect a lot of them every 3 months, popping manhole covers and all that. So we're accessing ours quite a bit. So with getting eyes on them so much, we have the opportunity where we'll roll up on an easement and there's firewood stacked across it. There's no access to it, or somebody has built an ADU and a deck over it since the last time we've been there. And we tell them, oh, you can't do that. You know, that's our easement. You can't build on our. And, you know, we have one in Gibbs where the property owner said, well, I'm not moving it and I'm not, you know, relocating it. So what do we do in that instance? And like I said, this may not be the meeting to have this discussion, but we need some direction on that, on what we can do. Because right now we just tell them, no, you can't do that. And whether they choose to move it or not, or we have easements where they.
Sorry to interrupt.
Go ahead.
So going forward, and this is gonna be a task, is each easement we had, not everybody knows about, or we have to go to Antonio to get it.
Correct.
So I would like to add work, unfortunately, get you your easements, get Matt his easement, get Kurt his easement. Unfortunately, each one's written differently.
Yep.
What you can do, what you can't do. So we'll get all those figured out. We're gonna have to go through and see where we have teeth and don't have teeth. You know, that's, I mean, some of this, like Antonio said, it's gonna grow a little bit with different things, but a lot of this ends up being legal, right? You have to write the nasty gram.
Yeah, so I'm talking about, because you are correct. A lot of people, even though it's in title reports and all that, don't know they have easements, but I'm more of talking about the ones, the repeat offenders that know they have an easement. And for instance, you know, Wildcat, you know, the property got so overrun with trash and structures that we couldn't even get to our manholes to inspect them. And then we tell them, hey, we're gonna be back in 3 days. You gotta have this stuff cleared. Well, it took the county, I think, a month or two just to clear the trash off there. So we're running this more and more, but we just don't, we need direction at some point on what we can do after we've, you know, told the property owner, can't do this.
But I think that's where, you know, an easement is an easement. That's what it's for. It's for access. It's for permanent access in order to maintain the infrastructure that's there. It's a legal part of that property. When an easement gets put in there, it's a legal designation. So you've got all the teeth in the world. You don't, yes, they can tell you go fly a kite. I'm not doing it. Okay, great. That's when we call up Jesse Barton and say, okay, boy, go for it. Does it solve your problem right away? No.
Exactly. So like I said, mine I think are a little bit different than Matt's, where, you know, we have to get in there, you know, every 3 months. We don't want a sewer spill on an easement that, you know, so if it takes going through legal and all that, we could be looking at months to get access to that, which I know is the process, but that's just kind of stuff that
Well, when these penalties start stacking up and it gets out there that these penalties for violating these easements, it'll probably come to a halt. It's just gonna get to a point where it's just too expensive to build your wood shed on top of our easement. We just got to start holding people accountable,
That's right.
period.
And so I think the other issue that we run into is when you alluded to it earlier, is that when we start holding the people accountable, even though TD's done nothing wrong, we start looking like that guy. And I know, and yeah, I know. So that's kind of, you know, and we don't want to do that, but I think at some point we need to.
You got anything to say, Matt?
I always have something to say.
Good.
So there's a couple different parts of this, and a lot of that's, you know, homeowner issues that, you know, we don't have access for easements to maintain stuff. And a lot of the times we can work around it if it's just routine maintenance and we've just got to access for a moment. We walk in, walk out, whatever, but they've got to move their stuff out of our easements. But the other part of this is the USAs that we're talking about and contractors that are, you know, not calling in USAs, or they call in a USA and they're digging without a legal ticket. That ticket needs to kind of mature up to that 48-hour mark to where we have time as utility owners to come out and mark our stuff, right? So this is for instance, this gentleman, this contractor from Coffle, about 3 weeks later, put in a ticket, but when we went out to go do the USA, had already completed the work. Those are the contractors that we need to document because those are the ones that need to be highlighted to whoever it is, whether it's the county or, state of California. They're being irresponsible. Somebody needs to know that. So we do need to take notes and those people need to be held accountable.
I agree. And this is not like, oh, this is brand new. We never knew this was supposed to be. Every month in your PG&E bill, you get something that says you need a USA in order to dig. Every month. Who doesn't know?
I think most people know. I think that's the thing is that they know, but they don't want to take the time for whatever reason. And I think getting to the point where people, getting it out there that we care about this topic at TUD, that we intend to do something about it, will hopefully prevent it. But a simple, starting excavation just because you called one in, but you didn't wait the 2 days, that indicates that a person that's not paying attention to the details or doesn't care. And what I worry about is that contractor gets people, can get the homeowner in trouble, right, by building something too close, or thinking they can build things without a permit, and then make a water and sewer connection to an ADU without paying capacity charges, and without understanding how severe the penalties are for that. So I like the idea of us creating a process, getting it out there, so that people understand that we care, that this kind of stuff is minimized as much as possible. Again, everything I've showed you, I think the idea is that it's just a tool for us to fall back on. We get busy, things kind of, and having something like this, okay, what's our progress again? Okay, yeah, let's do it this, and this, so that we don't miss things. In the cases where we don't want to miss things, and repeat offenders or people who, or situations where just really flagrant. So
okay, so let's just say we're going to adopt this, which really, as far as I'm concerned, it doesn't need to be adopted. This is something we should have already, if not, we're already doing. You're just delineating it a lot closer.
I didn't see this as an actual something that would be adopted, because if we do that, then we're really stuck to it. I think this is just documenting.
Well, that's where I was going with this, is I'm wondering, so here we are, we've got a total ditch outage. Everybody's running around with their hair on fire, trying to get water to the water treatment plants, cleaning out down logs, trees, in the ditch system, breaks, everything, anything and everything that could go wrong because of that snowstorm. And now we're gonna have a staff person, a senior staff person going through this procedure because we've run across somebody that's trying to cheat the system. I just see dollar signs. I see, because of lost production, people being taken away from the job that they're supposed to be doing to do somebody else's job. And it starts at, everybody knows you need to get a USA to dig, period. So you get a USA, it's done and over with. Simple. As far as your problems, I don't know how to rectify that other than, like I said, that's gonna have to be on a case-by-case business where when it gets, when you get some homeowner that thinks they know better than the whole rest of the world, then that's when legal's gotta come in, and that's where the county needs to come in, I mean, that is what a easement is. It's a legal, it's on a document, and it's legal access so that whoever that is that needs the access has it in order to take care of their infrastructure. And the problem there is that that one homeowner or property owner that's causing you grief is now causing all the other property owners grief because the break or whatever problem is that you're trying to fix is now affecting them. And that is totally unacceptable.
Yeah, so I mean, I agree. Almost everybody should know that you have to all in it. But I think what I'm trying to get some understanding, not today, but for the people that just don't do it. And what, like Don alluded to, we just might start finding these, and make it known that you just can't do it. Because right now it's, oh, I didn't call in USA and, oh, well.
I know it's just a lot of work, but it's work we have to do. A number of years ago, 4 or 5 years ago, we got a rush USA affected you up on the Little Springs Interceptor. I don't know what else to call it. Well, the contractor didn't wait. We were mobilizing, going to go out there and do the rush job. Well, they couldn't even wait minutes. We were in a meeting in here like now. Rich was going to get out of this meeting, direct us guys to go up there and do this rush job. Well, in the meantime, they got tired of waiting. So they dug it anyway and broke our interceptor and caused a big mess. What did we do there? We didn't fine them, but they paid a heck of a lot of money for our guys to go up there and repair that job to a contractor. They paid it, I don't know, what was it, $3,500 or it was some number, but these are the things that we have to do. We just have to protect ourselves. We have to make people accountable, right? In that case, it was a private contractor for PG, I think it was. I don't name the name, but anyway. Telephone pole. So anyway, I'm just saying, it's a lot of work. You know, what Rich is going through, he probably doesn't want to bother everybody in the world. He'll just figure it out, but elevate that up to Eric and let's get it solved.
So did we get to where you were hoping to get to? Well, we have everything we need, Melissa? Anything further for the good of whatever it's been? All right, well then, turn the meeting.